relevant than ever. Peace operations are among the most visible and effective expressions of multilateralism. They provide a cost-efficient means of conflict management and a vital tool to protect civilians, prevent regional spillovers, and help sustainable peace. Despite their some shortcomings, they remain one of the strongest collective security instruments at our disposal. Leadership of the UN in this regard is irreplaceable. Our common objective must be to adapt peace operations to a rapidly evolving global landscape. Today's missions face complex transnational challenges: terrorism, organized crime, cyber, and technological threats. The Pact for the Future reflects member states' commitment to shaping peace operations that are better fit for purpose. To remain fit for purpose, operations must be guided by realistic, sequenced mandates with clear transition and exit strategies, moving away from rigid one-size-fits-all models. At the same time, sustainable peace cannot be achieved solely through external support. Stronger partnerships with regional and sub-regional organizations, closer cooperation with communities and host governments, and systematic engagement with the Peacebuilding Commission are all essential for legitimacy and long-term success. In this regard, the 25 Peacebuilding Architecture Review is a timely opportunity. We would like to see deeper engagement and complementarity between the Peacebuilding Commission and the Security Council and ECOSOC. Financing also remains critical. Predictable, sufficient, and sustained funding, together with robust accountability and clear benchmarks, will enhance credibility and effectiveness of the missions. While the practice of UN peacekeeping has evolved significantly over the years, three fundamental principles remain central to its success: consent of the parties, impartiality, and the non-use of force except in self-defense and defense of the mandate. It is clearly stated in the Brahimi report that consent of the local parties and impartiality should remain the bedrock principles of peacekeeping. As specified in the UN peacekeeping operation principles and guidelines, in the absence of such a consent, a UN peacekeeping operation risks becoming a party to the conflict and being drawn away from its inherent role of keeping the peace. In this context, we would like to underline that the need for the UN to seek the consent of the Turkish Cypriot side regarding the activities of UNFICYP and to remain impartial. Given the long history and some controversial record of the UNFICYP, this will be a positive, progressive step. Mr. President, peace operations can only succeed when accompanied by political solutions.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you, and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We've got a lot of news this afternoon. We appreciate you joining us here on Fox Local and on YouTube. Want to give you a live look right now, Port Canaveral in Brevard County. Meanwhile, some of that news coming out of Capitol Hill that we are tracking today. Senator Ashley Moody speaking just moments ago at a news conference in Capitol Hill where she was outlining her concerns about child safety on social media. This is ahead of a hearing coming up in about an hour and a half that is looking at some whistleblower allegations that Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, several other digital platforms, ignored research when it came to child safety. We'll hear from Senator Moody about that in just a few minutes. We also heard from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna speaking at a hearing today about UFOs and whistleblower protections when it comes to UFOs, or UAPs as they are sometimes called. But we begin today with an update about the Tampa Bay Rays and whether a sale of the team could be imminent. Obviously, big news here with the Tampa Bay Rays sale could be finalized by the end of the month. Just a few weeks. This is a possible. This is a deal that involves a new ownership group led by a developer out of Jacksonville. His name is Patrick Zalupski. We've talked about this before here on Fox 35 News Plus, and his intentions to keep the team in the Tampa area. According to multiple reports, his ownership group is meeting with Major League Baseball this week. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank sat down with Ken Hagan, a Hillsborough County Commissioner, to talk about the potential sale. He and the Tampa mayor echoed that they are confident that the team will stay in Tampa, but also interesting to hear Hagan tell Evan Axelbank that Orlando could be a, quote, real threat if Tampa can't get this deal done. Here is some of that conversation between Evan Axelbank and Ken Hagan just a little bit ago.
So I think we're weeks away.
How significant is that for people who have watched this process play out for 20 years? The fact that the team is being sold, where does that rank? How big of a deal is this?
It's enormous. I think for starters, there's renewed optimism of the organization being able to remain in Tampa and Hillsborough County for generations to come, and to having a new ownership group that has significant local ties in the community, I think really offers a real opportunity for us to rally around the team, the organization, and ensure that they remain here.
Has anything given you any doubt that they seem intent on keeping the team in Tampa Bay?
Well, I can tell you that my impression, my understanding that this is their priority for many, many reasons. And so I'm certainly encouraged by that the new owners are doing their due diligence now and analyzing various sites. But I will tell you, Orlando is a real threat. They have an ownership group, they have land, they have significant tourist tax dollars. And for any reason, if we're unable to get over the finish line, that's where I would anticipate they would look very hard at.
How significant is the meeting going to be this week between the potential owners and Major League Baseball?
I think it's just the next step. My gut tells me that the deal's been blessed in principle, and it's just a formality at this point.
When it comes to potential areas, you've said to me that the land is going to be critical and is a potential stumbling block. Right now, Hillsborough, you've said to me in the past that the leader in the clubhouse was the Ybor City site. Where now is the discussion around the land, and why is Hillsborough Community College, Hillsborough College, being talked about?
I think to the new owner's credit, they're doing their due diligence and looking at any viable location that offers the opportunity for ancillary development in order for the new owners to have their model work and be successful. It will require development beyond just the ballpark itself. And I think that's one location that certainly meets that criteria, as well as several others. But so that's why I think they're considering Hillsborough College.
What are the selling points of Hillsborough College?
I think the access, proximity to the airport. You have Dale Mabry right there. You can make it a sports hub with Raymond James Stadium across the street, Steinbrenner Field, similar to Kansas City or Philadelphia. Certainly we have proven traffic models, traffic plans for having so many Yankee games and Buccaneer games and other major events at that location. It offers, again, the opportunity to do ancillary development in that location. So I think for many reasons that it's a prime location.
How much is the Ybor site still being talked about?
I cannot say one way or the other. I'm certain that it's going to be on the short list, if you will. But at this point, I couldn't tell you if one is considered over the other. But I think they're both excellent sites, both offer significant opportunities. And I'm encouraged that we have more than one potential location.
For people who want the Rays to stay in Tampa Bay for a long time, how optimistic should they be right now?
Extremely optimistic. It's Tampa's to lose, is the way I would characterize it. And we're going to have a real opportunity to sit down and get an agreement in place, and I'm confident that we'll be able to do so.
Have you been able to come up with any potential financial plans at this point? Not asking you to necessarily tell me what they are, but is there a financial plan?
Well, we would begin where we left off a couple of years ago with the Rays and the Ybor site when we had a financial model. Again, that was primarily based on tourist tax revenues and user fees and things of that nature. So we would begin at that location, but with that model. But the reality is, there's not a one-size-fits-all model, if you will. The location somewhat determines what potential funding sources are there. So we would definitely start there and then consider any potential creative financing options.
Do the new owners seem to have more capital than Stu Sternberg?
I would assume so. Otherwise, I don't believe Major League Baseball would approve this ownership group. In this general location is Hillsborough College, and you certainly have the proximity to the airport, which is a big selling point. In fact, we use that in many of our bids whenever we bid on Super Bowls and national the college football championship game and other events because of the proximity. You go to most cities, most communities, you're driving an hour and a half from the airport and to wherever the events are located. So the proximity, having Dale Mabry Highway right there, having a proven traffic management pattern that we've utilized for Buccaneer games and Yankee games, again, just provide several opportunities for us to do it in a way that we know that will be successful.
Certainly in that tight area there, Ybor City would be more complicated, just in terms of moving people.
Well, you're in an urban environment, so access would be a little more challenging. However, I would also say that you have the benefit of being able to utilize the trolley, and so you would not necessarily need as many parking spaces in that location. We already have a couple of parking garages that are in place. We have, again, being able to utilize the trolley. Yeah. Well, in this general area in Ybor City, the advantages are we have parking garages that are already in place. You have the ability to utilize the trolley, so folks could be in downtown. The trolley will ultimately be expanded up into the Tampa Heights area. You could be at Armature Works. You could take the trolley in, so you wouldn't, accessing that way would be much easier. Clearly, though, you'd be in a more dense urban environment. Traffic around the ballpark, I'm sure, would be much tighter. However, you have the benefits of walk-up traffic for midweek games that, again, you would not have in a little bit more of a, not necessarily suburban, but in the environment around Raymond James Stadium.
So talks about a couple of different locations, potential locations for that new Rays stadium in the Tampa area. You heard Ken Hagan, the Hillsborough County Commissioner, talking about the Rays being Tampa's to lose. We should also note that Rick Workman, who is the anchor investor for the Orlando Dreamers and the group trying to bring Major League Baseball here to Orlando, according to multiple reports, is joining that ownership group, the potential ownership group led by the Jacksonville developer Patrick Zalupski. And so we are kind of still tracking to see what that means for Orlando and their push to bring Major League Baseball here. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Gera Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A lot of interesting happenings today on Capitol Hill when it comes to some of Florida's congressional delegation, including Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who is the chair of this task force on the declassification of federal secrets. And they held a hearing today on UFOs or UAPs and kind of looking at transparency when it comes to those sightings and what they might be, and also protecting whistleblowers. Several of the witnesses were from the U.S. military, kind of sharing what they knew, and so talking about it from a couple of different perspectives, not just their encounters, but also needing protection for blowing the whistle. I want to play for you the opening remarks. We did bring you some of that hearing earlier today, but right now I'm going to play you some of the opening remarks from Congresswoman Luna speaking earlier today on Capitol Hill.
Good morning and welcome to the hearing regarding UAP disclosures. For too long, the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomena, commonly known as UAPs, has been shrouded in secrecy, stigma, and in some cases, outright dismissal. Today, I want to state clearly that this is not science fiction or creating speculation. This is about national security, government accountability, and the American people's right to the truth. I have spoken now to a number of whistleblowers from the military, to include the infamous Eglin Air Force Base incident that occurred when myself and former Representative Matt Gaetz, as well as Representative Burchett, followed up on a lead from multiple active duty Air Force pilot whistleblowers that alleged that the United States Air Force was covering up UAP activity at Eglin Air Force Base. We have heard from a number of whistleblowers, specifically military pilots, that the reason for not coming forward publicly is out of fear that speaking out would cost them their flight status and potentially their careers. This is unacceptable. We cannot protect our airspaces if our best trained observers are silenced. We cannot advance science if we refuse to ask questions. And we cannot maintain trust in government if we keep the American people in the dark. Now, Congress has tried to fix this problem. Congress tried to create formal channels through the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as AARO, and the Intelligence Community Inspector General for service members and officials to make disclosures. But the reality, the reports come in are often to brush aside, slow-walked, or met with skepticism rather than serious investigation. Recently, the former AARO director, known as Sean Kilpatrick, attacked our witnesses and members on this committee. It should be noted that he's a documented liar and brings into question what his purpose at AARO really was if it was not to follow up on investigations and disclose his findings to members of Congress. A former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Chris Mellon, described a report published by AARO that found no evidence that any USG investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed any sighting of UAP-represented extraterrestrial technology. As the most error-ridden and unsatisfactory government report I can recall reading after decades of government service. Mellon further noted that this was a first error report submitted to Congress without the Director of National Intelligence's sign-off, and seemingly excluded input from any scholars or experts who have studied or written extensively about this topic, as would normally be in any other case in this field. Mellon determined that this report failed to fulfill the congressional mandate under which it was required, omitted entire agencies with known investigations or activities related to UAPs, and omitted any discussion of efforts to hide classified or unclassified information about UAP. Such efforts were unaddressed by the report, despite the existence of agency records and investigations concurring with them, including those at U.S. Customs and Border Protection. If we set up offices and oversight bodies only to let them become graveyards for testimony, or worse yet, ruses for pretending to investigate when in actuality there was no follow-up, then we are not doing our jobs. In recent months, Congress has also been presented with evidence that points to technologies that, to our knowledge, are beyond our current capabilities. It is our duty as elected representatives to follow the facts wherever they lead, and to ensure that those facts are not buried under classification stamps or bureaucratic excuses. Let me be clear, whether UAPs represent adversarial technology, natural phenomena, or something beyond current human understanding, Congress has a responsibility to investigate. If these objects are foreign in origin, then they pose a direct threat to our national security. And if they represent something unknown, they demand rigorous scientific inquiry, not ridicule, not secrecy, and not silence. The stakes are very high. Adversarial nations are not waiting for us to catch up. They are studying these phenomena as well aggressively, as multiple nations have also announced their own parliamentary investigations into this very topic. If we are to continue to hide information from ourselves, we risk strategic surprise. If we continue to ignore our pilots and service members, as well as countless government whistleblowers, we risk losing their trust. And if we continue to shield the truth from the public, we risk eroding the very foundation of democratic accountability. This is why this hearing matters. This is not about fueling speculation. This is about demanding the basic transparency from the Department of Defense and the intelligence community and other military contractors. It is about asking the questions every American has the right to ask. What do we know? What don't we know? And why in a free society are we being told so little? A major barrier to this committee's inquiry into UAPs has been the lack of cooperation and transparency from the Department of Defense and the intelligence community. In preparation for previous UAP hearings, the committee repeatedly asked the Department of Defense to allow members to view videos and files related to UAP incidences. Unfortunately, the Department of Defense notified the committee staff that due to the department's Special Access Program rules, only members of the House Armed Services Committee, as well as the Defense Subcommittee on House Appropriations, also known as HAC-D, were allowed to be read in onto such programs. For a non-committee member to be allowed to view these documents and videos, individual members must be approved by the chairman and ranking member of both HASC and HAC-D. Independent SAP oversight has presented a consistent problem for Congress, as well as program budgets are classified. Additionally, oversight reporting to Congress is classified and only provided to the authorizing and appropriations committees of jurisdiction. The American people are not fragile. They do not need to be shielded like children from reality. What they cannot tolerate and what they will not forgive is a government that withholds the truth and punishes those who dare to speak up. I want to close with this. Future generations will look back at this moment and ask what we did when presented with the unknown. Did we look away, embarrassed or afraid, or did we pursue the truth with courage? I intend to be on the side of truth, transparency, and accountability, and I hope my colleagues on this task force will be able to do the same. To quote a few elected officials, Senator Schumer has stated, multiple credible sources allege a constitutional crisis over UFOs. Senator Rounds has stated that these are brilliant individuals and they are not making this stuff up. And our current Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has stated very high clearances and high positions within our government in regards to these whistleblowers. Senator McConnell also described these whistleblowers as sane and credible. And the witnesses today are not alone. In fact, they're far from it. In fact, 34 senior military, government, and intelligence officials have broken their silence. This includes now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Senator Rounds, Senator Gillibrand, General Jim Clapper, the former director of the government's UAP task force, the former head of aviation security for the White House National Security Council, the former Secretary of Defense, and many more. Again, to quote Secretary of State Rubio in an upcoming documentary known as The Age of Disclosure, even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis that begins to spin out of control. And to quote Senator Gillibrand, who also went public in this documentary, it's not acceptable to have secret parts of this government that no one ever sees. It's time for the fundamental truths of UAP to be revealed to our nation's leaders and the public. It's time for the U.S. government to exercise transparency. And with that, I yield to Ranking Member Crockett for the opening statement.
And we will hear more from not just Congresswoman Luna, but also Congressman Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat in representing Florida's 23rd district. He spoke during this hearing as well, asked some questions of the witnesses, and we'll hear from him and have more from that hearing coming up in our next hour. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but as we do, I want to give you this live look outside the federal courthouse in Fort Pierce. That is in St. Lucie County, where we are tracking day 2 of jury selection in the trial of Ryan Ruth, the would-be Trump assassin, suspected would-be Trump assassin, who is on trial this week representing himself in federal court. Opening arguments expected to begin on Thursday. Again, second day of jury selection in that trial today. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Here's a live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill, where been a busy morning already, as we talked about with the UFO hearing, but also standing by and waiting for a hearing in about an hour of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology, and the Law. This is a hearing looking at whistleblower allegations that Meta, the parent company of Facebook and some other social media platforms, suppressed child safety research. And so that's the big topic on Capitol Hill today. And just a little bit ago, we heard from several of these members of Congress and senators who are going to be, who are talking about this, and several members of the Senate Judiciary Committee who are going to be leading this hearing, including Senator Ashley Moody, one of the newest senators in the U.S. Senate, and certainly Florida's newest senator as well. She spoke about why this is important, not just from her work as a senator in the short time she's been in office, but also previously as Florida's Attorney General. Here is what Ashley Moody said just a few moments ago.
We appreciate you being here today to highlight such an important topic. I speak to you not as just one of the newest senators here in D.C., but also a former Attorney General who felt like I was battling this consistently on behalf of the state of Florida and the families and children within Florida, and certainly as a mother of a teenage child. And oftentimes I said, we are the first generation of parents who are trying to protect our children from perpetrators and dangers, and we can't do that anymore by locking our front door. And we are the generation of parents that are expected to understand how to do that and what the dangers are. And for the most part, as I believe we will hear more at the hearing today, we have been kept in the dark. And how in the world do you protect your children and your families if you are in the dark as to what those dangers are? The challenges to raising children today and the problems that we have with what is lurking on the internet, I think, fall into three broad categories. Number one, predators, folks that wish to do children harm, can get to your children in their bedrooms and you will never know. Number two, there are programs and apps and algorithms being developed to target your children and their attention, ultimately having an effect on their mental health and well-being. Many have committed suicide, and we as parents are still learning what algorithms are. If you were born in the decade I was born in. And number three, the sheer volume of dangerous, obscene, explicit, harmful material online that your children can get on and access is endless. So from predators to addictive algorithms to dangerous material, it is a tidal wave coming at families with no way to combat it or truly even to seek redress or recourse if in fact your child is harmed. In fact, as Florida's Attorney General, I brought suit on behalf of our state, seeking to hold Meta accountable. And of course, the first thing they argue is that they are immune because of a law that Congress passed decades ago, before we even had social media, before we had any of these dangers that we were dealing with as parents. They're using that as a shield. So as parents are desperately trying to keep pace with rapidly escalating technology, they are using a decades-old law that Congress has yet to tweak or address or change to reflect the modern-day challenges of families and parenting. That is negligent at best. I would ask, not just as the nation's newest senator, but as a mother who is right now trying to parent a child who sometimes I have to ask to tell me how to turn on the parental controls. Think about that. As Attorney General, I led a statewide council on human trafficking. We did a survey of law enforcement across our state. As you know, Florida is a large state, 0 tolerance for human trafficking. We asked them to tell us what social media apps are being used when children, what social media apps are being used for human trafficking. Over 50% came back as related to Meta. We asked the CEO to come and testify. It was a no-show. I wish I knew then that I would now be in the position as a United States Senator to again ask the CEO to come and testify in front of a United States congressional hearing. Because right now, this is the most important topic for parents addressing the real dangers affecting our children, from trafficking to exploitation, to drug use, to mental health. We have to do more as a Congress, tweaking our laws, updating our laws to reflect the realities in which we are parenting today. And I ask that as a former AG, as a mom, and as a newest senator, as for a country where people want action. We don't have to wallow in what has always been. That's why we're sent here to Washington, to make changes, to take actions on behalf of the people that sent us here. So thank you so much for hosting this press conference, and for those of you that showed up today to highlight one of the biggest challenges we're facing as a nation.
That was from that hearing earlier today. Senator Ashley Moody, joined by colleagues on both sides of the aisle ahead of that hearing coming up. Again, that's expected to start at 2:30. It is a subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and hearing testimony from a couple of whistleblowers who I believe worked in research at Meta. So it will be interesting to hear some of what they have to say coming up in just a little bit. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we still have a lot to get to, so keep it right here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. The Volusia County Sheriff says a man was using a stolen ID to apply for nursing jobs. His name is Joseph Kinney. He is 55 years old. Investigators say he previously held nursing licenses in Florida, Alabama, and in California, but that his license was revoked back in 2022 for over allegations of repeatedly diverting drugs from his employers. Apparently, according to investigators, he had been working 2 jobs in the area, one in Seminole County, one in Orange County, for less than a week before detectives met him yesterday when he showed up for another job interview.
And we'll give you the takedown signal once we have what we need from him.
Okay, go. You have any weapons on you, sir?
I guess not.
What do I do?
We'll get with you guys in a minute, ma'am, okay?
Okay.
We'll pat him down and we'll go check him over there. Come on. Let's go over here, so let's get away from the building, sir.
That was body camera video from the Volusia County Sheriff's Office showing the arrest of Joseph Kinney. He's due in court any minute now this afternoon for his first appearance, scheduled for 1:30. So again, any minute now expected to make that first appearance in court on these charges. Meanwhile, in Flagler County, a 15-year-old student from Flagler Palm Coast High School was arrested yesterday for carrying a gun on campus. According to investigators, also took it to McDonald's, pointed it at another teen. Fox 35's Kelsey Cairns had the chance to speak with Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley about this case and the investigation that they say stemmed from an anonymous tip. Take a listen.
Well, what we know is we received a tip from a student, and I want to commend the students for seeing something and saying something. They let our school resource deputy know that a student at Flagler Palm Coast High School was armed with a gun. And now it was 1 day old information. So when the school resource deputies and the faculty pulled him out of the school and searched him, there was no gun, and he denied that he ever had one. And the story was that the day that he had the school, which was the day before the arrest, on campus, that when school was let out, they all met up at a nearby McDonald's, went into a bathroom, and his 15-year-old pulled the gun and pointed it at one of the other students. Now, this gun was, we believe, is stolen. We're still checking into that, but it was loaded with ammunition. And so after we received additional information that there was a TikTok video that had been made, we confronted the next day the student with this. And then this time he admitted to it. He told us that the gun was at home and where it was in his backpack in his bedroom. So deputies responded there while school resource deputies were investigating the update. And fortunately, we recovered the gun, we recovered the ammunition, and the investigation is continuing. But we had enough evidence to arrest him. My message to the parents is be the sheriff in your home. I don't want to be the sheriff of your kid, but I will be if you won't do it and don't know what this kid is doing or what your child is doing. Here we had a 15-year-old that's playing around with a gun. That's deadly consequences. And we're very fortunate that students came forward. We have a good rapport with our students at our schools and came forward, told us what was going on, and we were able to intervene, recover the gun, and make an arrest before a tragedy happened. This had all the makings for a tragedy.
And just to go on top of that, Sheriff, I think that's so compelling that all of those kids, they recognized a threat and they came forward. That's a testament not only, to the community in Flagler County, but also you think about the school community as well.
I totally agree. We work a lot with communicating to our students in the community that if you see something, say something. And our role and goal is to create a safe learning environment so the parents don't have to worry about letting their children go to school, knowing that they're going to come home. And fortunately, with our partnership with the school district, our students, and our deputies, we were able to avert something that had all the makings of leading up to a tragedy. I mean, here you take a gun to school, which is against the law, number one. Number two, after school is out, you go to a nearby McDonald's with some of your alleged friends. But if there are your friends, you're not going to point a gun at them. And this kid did that. And he's lucky he didn't have an accidental discharge. He's 15 years old. He might think he knows what he's doing with a gun,
Right.
but I assure you, he doesn't know what he's doing with a gun.
So in my question, obviously, being parents, it starts in the home, that conversation. We've seen other cases in other states where sometimes the parents are charged as well. I mean, are they going to face any prosecution for this kid having this gun on campus? I mean, you found it in his bedroom. I'm just curious about that.
Well, the investigation is still ongoing, but what we know at this point, it is unlikely that the parents would be charged in this case. We have no indication that it was a parent's gun. We do have some information that is a stolen gun from an auto burglary, and we are investigating that to connect it. So it's very likely that the parents had no idea that this child had this gun. And the parents were very cooperative with us during our investigation. And so it's probably one of these things, they didn't know what their kid was doing. Turns out he had been doing some pretty dangerous burglaries, armed burglary, or at least somehow got a gun that we believe was stolen from a car and then took it to school. So it's very likely he had it hidden in a backpack in his closet in a corner. So it's very likely they had no clue that he had done this, which is another reason why you have to stay engaged as a parent with your children. What are they doing? Who are they hanging out with? Are they out late at night? Nothing good happens late at night, and what I've noticed in my career. So they're probably hanging out with the wrong people, going out late at night. Most auto burglaries that we have anyways that occur in a residential area or early morning, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, auto burglaries. Where's your kid? Know what they're doing. If they're sneaking out of the house, put an alarm system on so that you can at least know they're turning it off or they opened a window to climb out. There are some things that you can do as a parent, but most importantly, talk to your parent or talk to your children, teach them right from wrong. And then obviously to report things. If you see something, say something, which we had multiple students come forward. So I'm very proud of those parents. I'm very proud of those students. And I thank them for helping us avert what could have been a tragedy.
It was the Flagler County Sheriff speaking with Fox 35's Kelsey Cairns. As we go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, I just wanted to flag these striking images from Long Beach, California. This is at the Port of Long Beach, where a number of shipping containers have tumbled overboard. We don't know the exact number of containers or what's inside them, but you can see quite a mess there. We've had this live picture up for you for the last few minutes here on Fox Local, and you can see several of those containers in the water. No injuries have been reported. Again, still waiting on some more details about this, but you can see certainly causing some issues there, and quite a mess as well for those shipping containers to be in the water. Again, this is at the Port of Long Beach in Long Beach, California. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you a live look inside the White House press briefing room as we are hearing from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, who is speaking to reporters, talking about a number of things. I believe in the past couple of minutes been talking about this Israeli strike in Qatar, where they were targeting some leadership of Hamas that reportedly were in that country, discussing a proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. Let's go ahead and listen in for a few minutes here as Caroline Leavitt briefs from the White House.
So first of all, I want to get to the premise of your question, Reagan, which is being pushed by Democrats, that there is crime in red states. Of course, there is crime in all states, but the crime in these cities is all in cities that are run by Democrats. If you look at the list of the top 20 high crime cities in the United States, every single one, with the exception of one in Louisiana, is run by a Democrat. And these Democrats have supported the same policies that I spoke about at the beginning of this briefing, like cashless bail. If you look at a red state, Mississippi, but a Democrat-run city in that state, Jackson, in 2019, Jackson, Mississippi eliminated cash bail for virtually all misdemeanor cases. And while Jackson is not formally a sanctuary city, the state of Mississippi formally banned sanctuary cities, and this city has acted as a de facto sanctuary city for criminals and illegal aliens since 2017. Same thing, Birmingham, Alabama, a Democrat-run city in a red state. In 2017, the Birmingham City Council unanimously passed a resolution, quote, committing to establish sanctuary policies. So if you actually look at the facts from these Democrat-run cities, these are cities that are run by Democrats and by by members of the Democrat Party. These are blue cities, and they have all supported these disastrous policies which allow repeated career criminals back onto the streets to further commit acts of violence. And so to answer your question, yes, the president wants to work with anyone across this country who wants to end these horrible policies and to bring law and order to our streets. And I think that is proven by his tremendous cooperation with the mayor of Washington, D.C. and our nation's capital. And just look at the results of that. And I do have some updates for you on the D.C. crime crackdown if anyone is interested. There have been a total of 2,177 arrests made since the start of the operation on August 7th. Just last night, there were 57 arrests made in Washington, D.C. Of the 57 arrests, there were 14 illegal aliens who were arrested, many of whom had prior criminal histories. And other arrests just last night in our nation's capital, so you all can be very grateful for this. Our great men and women of law enforcement, both federal and local, working together as they should, made an arrest on a warrant for assault with the intent to kill. The subject shot 2 adult males after an altercation. They made an arrest on a warrant for an armed carjacking. The subject assaulted an adult male in the face with a firearm and then took his keys. We also made an arrest on a warrant for simple assault and the destruction of property and subsequently charged with second-degree theft. Last night in D.C., there was an arrest for possession of a controlled substance with second-degree theft. There was an arrest for possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute that subject. The person is also a subject of interest in a homicide and a carjacking. Last night in D.C., we also arrested a felon in possession of a firearm who was carrying that firearm without a license. So these are the career criminals. These are the bad guys that we are picking up in Washington, D.C. every day. The president would love to do this in every Democrat-run city across the country, and he hopes that more Democrats will call the White House to allow us to help them.
One more that's D.C. specific. Congress is poised to not extend Trump's federalization of the D.C. police. Mayor Bowser signed an executive order formalizing cooperation with federal forces. You just mentioned all the success that the operation has had. Does the White House believe that the Mayor Bowser's action is enough to continue the crime crackdown?
We are very grateful for the mayor's cooperation in this effort, and we look forward to continuing to work with her and the Metropolitan Police Department. Bloomberg.
Thanks, Caroline. The president says, he was planning to speak with Putin soon. Can we expect a phone call between the two leaders this week?
I don't have any phone calls to read out between you, the president, and any other foreign leaders. Ed.
Thanks, Carolyn. I want to ask about the benchmark revisions that came out. If you look at the revisions between March of 2024 and March of 2025, and you do a little math, it averages out to 73,000 jobs roughly per month added to the economy, less than what was thought. When can we expect the Trump administration, now their policies are rolling out, for that increase, that average to increase?
Well, let me just say something about the revisions that came out this morning. And this was one of the biggest revisions in absolute terms in decades. And the benchmark year, March 2024 to 2025, shows that the job growth was vastly weaker during the Biden administration than ever previously reported. Between this revision and last year's, job growth was actually overstated by approximately 2 million jobs. And the Biden administration stood up here and vouched for that data and told you that data was real. And when President Trump calls into question the veracity of that data, like he did before he took the oath of office and even now as President of the United States, he was ridiculed for that. And turns out this revision proves two things. Number one, the president was right. And this is why we need new leadership at the Fed. And this makes it very clear that President Trump inherited a much worse economy by the Biden administration than ever reported. And it also proves that the Federal Reserve is holding our monetary policy far too restrictive. Interest rates are too high. The Fed needs to cut the rates because of the mess that we inherited from the Biden administration.
Time frame. The president has said a year. Secretary Besson said maybe the fourth quarter. When can we expect these numbers to increase?
Well, first, we need accurate numbers. We need truthful and honest data, which is why the president took the monumental step to try and appoint and confirm new leadership at the BLS so we can have data that we can actually rely on. And that's what the president is doing, and we hope that his nominee will soon be confirmed. Charlie.
You addressed the crime of Irina Zalupski, and the president has done a lot to deliver justice for victims of crimes like that horrific stabbing. And the Epstein files are back in the news because a lot of Americans feel that that Jeffrey Epstein's victims never got justice. Does the president care about these victims? Do you think he can does he want to deliver more justice for them, and is he willing to meet with them?
The president cares about victims of all crimes, and that's why Republicans in the Trump Department of Justice have done more in terms of transparency when it comes to the Epstein case than any prior administration. And why are the Democrats all of a sudden caring about this? It's because they are desperately trying to concoct a hoax to smear the President of the United States. We have seen this time and time again. Ro Khanna and all of these other Democrats, they could have cared about those victims 4 years ago when Joe Biden was in office. They could have pushed for transparency then. Unfortunately, the Democrats are using victims as political pawns to try to smear and to push a hoax against the President of the United States. And I will get you numbers on the amount of child predators that this administration and this FBI and this Department of Justice have locked up under President Trump's leadership. We have done more than any president to protect victims of crime, especially disgusting, heinous sexual crimes, and that includes the deportation of illegal aliens who are perpetrating these crimes against innocent victims in our country right now today, and that remains a top priority for this administration.
Does the president, will he meet with the victims?
On the Doha strikes, did the president speak with Netanyahu before they were carried out? Did he urge him to not go through with it, or did they only speak afterwards?
Again, I read you a statement. The Trump administration was notified by the United States military that Israel was attacking Hamas. The president directed his special envoy Witkoff to immediately call the Qataris, and after the attack, he spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
One more.
Behind you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
About the Epstein case, would the White House support a professional handwriting expert review of the document released yesterday to prove that it's not the president's signature?
Sure, we would support that. And in fact, I have already seen many forensic analysts of signatures coming out. I believe it was the Daily Signal that published a piece with 3 separate signature analysts who said that this absolutely was not the president's authentic signature. And we have maintained that position all along. The president did not write this letter. He did not sign this letter. And that's why the president's external legal team is aggressively pursuing litigation against the Wall Street Journal, and they will continue to. Christian.
Thanks, Caroline. Following up on Ed, now that we have these revised jobs numbers, is the president concerned at all that price spikes, stemming from his tariffs through the end of the year, might actually be driving the country towards a depression or a recession? What I'm asking is he committed to these policies now that we know how faulty the jobs data was?
The president is committed to his policies because his policies are working, Christian. And there have been a lot of people fear-mongering about inflation in this room, but it just has not come to fruition. On a monthly basis, CPI inflation has now come in at or below the market's expectation for 6 consecutive months, every month that President Trump has been in office. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9% average pace in the president's first 6 months in office. I would have told all of you that in January, you would not have believed me, but those are the facts and those are the numbers. And we also see many other positive signs in economic indicators like real GDP. In the second quarter, it was revised up to 3.3%. That beat the market's expectation. We know there's a capital spending boom right now, which we know is one of the greatest economic indicators of job growth. We know wages are increasing at a far faster pace than they were under the previous administration. We see productivity in the second quarter was also revised up to a strong 3.3%. In total industrial production, factory output also surged. All of this means the economy is moving, people are working, people are spending money. You look at consumer spending, that is also ticking up and in the right direction. And in a large part, it's because of the incredible work the president has done in terms of energy and unlocking our energy dominance in this country. Again, these jobs, the numbers from the BLS today prove that the economy was an absolute mess, and we are working every single day to fix it, and all of those indicators I just read for you are positive sign of what is to come.
Just one more quickly on
Sure,
trade.
Danny.
I just wanted to get a bit of clarity on the sequence of events for the Doha attack and the notification. You said that the U.S. military notified, if I got it right, the Trump administration was notified by the U.S. military.
That's right.
Was the U.S. military notified by the Israeli military, or did the U.S. military detect an incoming Israeli attack on Qatar?
The U.S. military notified the White House and the President of the United States. That's all I have to share for you on that, Danny.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Also following up, you said that the president assured the leaders in Qatar that this would never happen again. Did he say that to the Prime Minister of Israel, and did Prime Minister Netanyahu agree to that?
The president told that to the Emir and the Prime Minister of Qatar, and the president also overstressed the importance of peace in the region in his conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu as well. And Prime Minister Netanyahu told President Trump he wants peace and he wants it quickly. That's what the president expects to happen. The president is very clear in the statement that he just had me read, and you will all see it out on True Social very shortly, I am sure. The whole world will see it. He wants all of the hostages released out of Gaza, and he wants this war to end. Those are two very directives that the president is making very clear for the entire world to understand. Mary.
Heard a number of topics there discussed by Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, during this briefing we've been listening in on live from the White House. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox Local, but we'll be right back at the top of the hour with Florida Live, joining our audience from Fox 35 and Fox 51 as well. So keep it here. We've got more news coverage in just 2 minutes.
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and also on Fox 35. We appreciate you joining us today. We've got a lot to get to over this next hour. I want to let you know some of what you can expect here. Also give you a live look over downtown Orlando. You can see some of those dark clouds. We are tracking more storm chances here across Central Florida today. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about one of the Orlando Dreamer investors joining the potential Rays purchasing group. Meanwhile, they are apparently zeroing in on that sale with the Rays and also looking at another Tampa area stadium site. We're going to talk all about that in just a minute with Fox 13's Evan Axelbank. We are also tracking a trial that is underway in the death of a Florida 4-year-old. We'll have more on that with Nancy Gay and our Tampa connection coming up in just a little bit. We are also going to be breaking down Governor Ron DeSantis' legislative wish list coming into focus and a number of other political topics that we will cover as well with our friends from Politico when we talk with Kimberly Leonard in about 20 minutes or so. But we do begin with this story as a Rays sale appears imminent, likely to happen, it seems, in the next couple of weeks. And so what does that mean in this push for baseball here in Orlando? What does it mean for a new stadium site in the Tampa area? Here to break all of this down for us is Fox 13 News reporter Evan Axelbank, who joins us live now from the Fox 13 newsroom. And Evan, I know this is a story you've been following for a while now, and it seems that things are really picking up here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. The sale to the new investor group appears to be imminent. It's likely going to be in the next several days, potentially a week or so, before the Rays are sold by Stu Sternberg to an investor from Jacksonville named Patrick Zalupski. The thinking is that Zalupski is going to be with a group of investors who are going to be able to invest more money into a stadium project than Stu Sternberg was able to. Now, Stu is going to still keep about a 10% stake in the Rays. So he's not going to be totally exiting the scene, but this group of new investors is thought to be able to offer much more capital to get a stadium project off the ground. It's likely there's still going to be some public financing needed, whether it's going to be in Hillsborough or Pinellas counties. But at this point, certainly Rays fans, but also people who are working on this project from the county perspective believe that this group is going to be able to offer much more in the way of direct funding to get a deal done to build a stadium, which has been a 25-year nightmare for this community.
Evan, one of the things that made folks' ears here in Orlando perk up was the reports that Rick Workman, who was the anchor investor with the Orlando Dreamers group, is now reportedly part of this potential purchasing group of the Rays.
I think at this point, the momentum appears to be on the Tampa Bay side of things. Now, I'm talking to Tampa Bay officials mostly, so maybe they're telling me what the community wants to hear in this case. But when you look at the fact, especially from the MLB perspective, from Major League Baseball's perspective, Tampa Bay is a bigger TV market than Orlando is. The team has said for years that they're trying to stay in this area, and government officials at this point believe that the intention is to keep the team here in Tampa Bay. Certainly any Orlando money could have an impact, but at this point, all signs point to Tampa Bay getting the first crack at it. Now, Pinellas County had much more money to give than Hillsborough County does. Pinellas County had sort of a funding scheme already in place. For a stadium, Hillsborough County would have to kind of piecemeal this together with different types of taxes that would go towards building a stadium. But at this point, it appears that Major League Baseball is going to take a first crack at it on this side of the state.
And there's also more discussion about a new potential stadium site kind of in that same area as Raymond James Stadium and Steinbrenner Field.
Yeah, and the talk is, if you're familiar with the area, there's a little region just south of where Steinbrenner Field is called HCC. That's Hillsborough Community College. And the intention, you see some video of it there. The intention is to at least take a look at that as a potential site. You see how close it is to Raymond James Stadium. So there would be kind of like almost a sports corridor there, given that Ray J is right next to where Steinbrenner Field is. And then if you were to have a third stadium there, it would give kind of a little sports corridor. And the reason that HCC is attractive is because the traffic patterns have already been worked out. Officials are used to getting cars in and out of there. And there's also clearly an infrastructure in place to support the transportation of team personnel and team officials. The airport is right there. So I think that this is an area that they're going to look at. However, there is a site in Ybor City, if you're familiar with Tampa, that's kind of a funky, historic area that is just north of downtown. There is a potential stadium site there. There are already some uses claimed for it, but it's possible that baseball could make a run at that. Ybor City would give kind of a downtown feel to things. And it also offers more unique transportation options, whereas the Dale Mabry site, you would have to, at least at this point early on, consider that the cars and vehicles, road vehicles, would be the most prominent way to get there. That's not to say that a train from Orlando couldn't become possible at some point to either side, Ybor City or HCC. But at this point, if the stadium were to go on the Hillsborough Community College location, it would likely be cars first. Whereas if it were to be in Ybor City, they do have an option for a trolley and a potentially easier access to like an I-4 train kind of thing. But that's still years down the road.
What are officials there in the area saying? I know you had the chance to speak with Hillsborough County Commissioner Ken Hagan. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor weighed in on this. What are officials saying today?
They believe that Hillsborough County is in the driver's seat at this point. They believe that things have kind of run their course in Pinellas County, that even though Pinellas County has more money to give, that there's simply no more deal to be had there. The new investors appear to be looking at the Tampa side of things more than they do the Pinellas County side of things. Of course, it's very difficult to confirm that. You see Ken Hagan there. That is Hillsborough County's lead negotiator on the Rays. It's still very difficult to confirm that because the new ownership group is not speaking publicly about things. But right now, Hillsborough County officials do believe that they're in the driver's seat. The mayor of Tampa believes that they're in the driver's seat. But it is all going to come down. If they still need public money, it's going to come down to how that public funding structure would work, where they would draw the money from, and then whether that would be a better deal for the Rays than Pinellas County could potentially offer. Many years ago, Major League Baseball said that Tampa and Hillsborough is the more suitable site. Now, in recent years, Pinellas County has grown so much that advantage was thought to have been muted by just, the fact that the area has grown so much, so the sort of population densities have shifted around a little bit, and there's not that much of a difference anymore between Tampa and the Hillsborough side versus the Pinellas and St. Pete side. So we'll have to see. But at this point, officials on the Hillsborough County side of things still believe that they're in the driver's seat, given the new ownership group seems to be looking there first. However, there are likely going to be pushes on the Pinellas County and St. Pete side to potentially see if they could resurrect a deal there.
Evan, I know in your conversation with Ken Hagan, he said, that he felt this is Tampa's kind of deal to lose that you kind of alluded to there. But one thing he also said was Orlando could be a real threat if Tampa can't get this done.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything to that, or do you think that the dream of Major League Baseball in Orlando is dead?
I mean, I absolutely think there's some truth to it. Whether it's something that's being pushed by Ken Hagan as a negotiating tactic, I mean, I guess you'll have to ask him that after the fact. I do think Orlando has a legitimate bid to make. I think that if things fall apart here on the Tampa Bay side of things, that absolutely Orlando will be able to be ready with a bid. But as I said, at this point, it seems that baseball is looking most closely at Tampa, Hillsborough, and Tampa Bay and Pinellas County. I certainly am not in a position to say that an Orlando deal is dead. It's possible that Orlando's trying to make themselves an attractive option for a potential expansion team, which is something that seems reasonable. And certainly they're going to be ready if a deal falls apart on this side of things. But at this point, it appears that Tampa and Hillsborough are going to get the first crack at it.
All right, Fox 13 News reporter Evan Axelbank, you're always on top of this story, and we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live.
That's my joy. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I should also note that we have reached out to the Orlando Dreamers organization. They say they'll be in contact with us with a statement and a press release here in the next probably, I think they said 24 hours or so. So we look forward to some updates, and that may give us a little bit more clarity on kind of where things go from here with that push. Well, we are going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live, and give you a live look right now at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera on this Tuesday afternoon. You can see a little bit windy there. You see that camera moving around a little bit. And we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and in case you're new to our show, this is our statewide news focused show here on Fox Local, YouTube, and also now on Fox 35. And we appreciate you joining us. It is the time of the show where we check in with Fox 13 Tampa Bay for our Tampa connection, get the latest Bay Area news. So we're going to check in now with Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay joining us live now. And Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Thanks for having me. Today we're going to begin in Hillsborough County, where a trial for 5 men who are accused of shooting and killing a 4-year-old little girl as she rode in the back seat of her mother's car began earlier today. Now, prosecutors say in August of 2021, 3 cars pulled up to the vehicle Sunny Bell was riding in and fired about 40 shots into the car as it was driving down Hillsborough Avenue. Sunny's mother and uncle survived the shooting, but she died at the hospital. Andrew Thompson, James Denson, Jalen Bedward, Cordarius Hammond, and Zavante Sampson are all charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Now, prosecutors say Sunny and her mother and her uncle had just left a celebration of life for another family member, and they were headed to a get-together, but they were having a bit of some trouble finding that location. That's when they pulled into a field to try to figure out directions and where they were supposed supposed to be going. And while they were in that field, prosecutors say the suspects started watching them from a nearby gas station. Prosecutors say the minute that car pulled out of the field and onto Hillsborough Avenue, the suspects, who were wearing masks and armed with guns, jumped into 3 separate vehicles and began chasing it. Prosecutors say the shooting was clearly a coordinated attack, with surveillance video showing the moments leading up to the shooting, which the state plans to show to the jury. Now, each of the 5 defense attorneys also presented opening arguments this morning, and they all said there's no evidence that links any of them to first-degree premeditated murder. Now, in the years since the shooting, the Tampa Police Department mistakenly sent at least one of those vehicles involved to a junkyard, which destroyed evidence. The defense will try to use that claim that the defendants were shot at first, but prosecutors say there's no evidence to corroborate that claim. Defense attorneys also plan to question who actually fired the shots into the vehicle. Now, the first witness that the jury heard from today was Sonny's uncle, who was driving the car that night. He took the stand a little bit ago, and we will have much more on this trial and all of the day's events later tonight. Garrett.
Just a heartbreaking case. Seeing the photo of that 4-year-old girl, I imagine this would be a tough one to be on the jury for.
Yeah, I can only imagine what's going through those jurors' minds. It's definitely heartbreaking. I mean, here was an innocent 4-year-old little girl who was in the backseat of this car. And again, they had just left a celebration of life for another family member when, as prosecutors say, they were under attack by these 5 suspects.
All right, our second story in the Tampa Connection, and looking at the dangerous defects in some new home construction. What can you tell us?
Yes, that's right. Several months ago, Fox 13, we did an investigative series on dangerous defects on new home construction. And now, after that series aired, we received dozens of emails from homeowners who said they were dealing with similar issues. These emails came from homeowners in Sarasota, Tampa, Melbourne, and Odessa. And we went to a new Tampa neighborhood where more than 40 homeowners say their roofs are leaky and defective. And we spoke with a couple who said they bought their home brand new 9 years ago, but quickly realized that their house had serious issues. They said they found a leak within the first 2 weeks, and the leaks kept popping up after that. They had leaks in the guest bathroom, in the master bathroom, and even upstairs. Now, the builder, Taylor Morrison, did send crews out to make repairs, but the leaks kept popping up. And dozens of their neighbors were also experiencing leaks, and many of them shared their stories in a private Facebook group called Esplanade of Tampa Roof Updates. Now, there are more than 300 homes in the Esplanade of Tampa neighborhood, which was built between 2015 and 2019. All of the homes have the same Spanish tile roofs, and when dozens of homeowners started experiencing leaks, they came together and decided that they needed to get inspections. They all had roof repairs done, and those roof repairs were covered by Taylor Morrison. However, the problem is that the repairs don't seem to be working, and so now homeowners are asking the builder to basically start over and give them new roofs under the 10-year structural warranty. Now, 2 roofing companies were contracted out to do the work. Those were Gulf Western and Adler Roofing. Representatives from the builder have been in contact with the homeowners for years, telling one in an email, "You are not alone. Several of your neighbors have recently expressed similar concerns." Now, a spokesperson for Taylor Morrison told us the 10-year warranty covers structural components, and while a roof's trusses are structural, materials such as roof shingles, tiles, and sheathing are not. Now, not every single roof in the neighborhood is leaking, and some residents did contact us to say that they are happy with their homes, and others are putting a new roof on at their own expense. Now, following the review of the results of a third-party inspection, Taylor Morrison sent us an updated statement that reads, "To approach customer concerns with care and consideration, we conducted roof inspections through an independent third party who recommends modest repairs and maintenance. We know each home is unique, so we will be working with homeowners individually. Additionally, Taylor Morrison's warranty ensures our commitment to quality, and when there are repairs needed that fall within the terms of the warranty, we will fix them." The Attorney General's office has been in touch with many of the homeowners in the Esplanade of Tampa, and they are urging anyone who's experiencing construction defects to file a complaint with their office online. Now, homeowners tell us Taylor Morrison has not shared the results of the third-party inspection with them. When we asked the company if we could see the results of the inspection, we were told they wanted to review the results with the homeowners first, reiterating that the inspector recommends minor repairs. Garrett?
Quite the situation for many of those homeowners there. And finally, Nancy, the Florida Holocaust Museum reopening.
Yes, that's right. The Florida Holocaust Museum is reopening today. It actually reopened here at 2 o'clock, and it had been closed for a little more than a year and underwent $8 million in upgrades. Now, the building, which is in downtown St. Petersburg, now has bulletproof glass and enhanced metal detectors for improved security. There are new exhibits as well, including Dimensions in Testimony. 4 Holocaust survivors were interviewed for that exhibit, and technology picks up keywords in visitors' questions to play the appropriate answer through a video screen. An installation from the Eli Wiesel collection is another new exhibit. It's temporary until the permanent one is built up on the 3rd floor. The renovations centered on Thor. That's a Danish fishing boat used in 1943 to rescue Jews, adding that the upgrades are designed to create a more immersive, visitor-focused experience. Now, as I mentioned, the museum did open about 20 minutes ago at 2 o'clock, and it is open until 5 o'clock today. However, if you'd like to visit the museum tomorrow, you can get in for free from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Garrett?
Well, important lessons to be learned, of course, and glad that that museum is back open, made some upgrades and some improvements, and certainly glad to have it back open.
Yes, we're definitely happy to have it back open. As you said, it does offer very important lessons in history.
Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. This is the time of the week where we like to check in on the pulse of Florida politics. And so we bring in Kimberly Leonard, who is a reporter with Politico and also the author of the Florida Playbook newsletter that you can get delivered in your inbox every weekday morning. And Kimberly, always good to talk with you, and we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Look forward to it.
Kimberly, first thing I want to talk with you about is what you wrote about in this morning's Florida Playbook, and that is kind of the legislative session wish list for Governor Ron DeSantis kind of taking shape here. What do you say about that?
Yeah, look, well, I've been covering Governor DeSantis for years, and he kind of always had this playbook that he would use where he would go around the state and talk about some of the things that he planned to push for in his budget. And it would really help to kind of get voters talking about some of these issues, as well as, you know, put pressure on lawmakers early as they begin to meet for sort of their fall interim meetings. And we didn't really see that much while he was running for president, and also, you know, while there was the changeover in the presidency afterwards. So the past couple of years, he didn't really do it as much. But this year, he is back on to doing it. And he's been talking about all the things that he wants to see the legislature do, including redistricting, wiping out property taxes on primary homes, rolling back vaccine mandates. He wants to see constitutional carry, which is open carry. We already have constitutional carry, which is being allowed to show when you have a firearm on you. And then he has just been doing all these appearances alongside Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, as well as Florida First Lady Casey DeSantis and Blaise Ingoglia, who's our chief financial officer. And it's just giving him a way to kind of, get his message out and make sure that lawmakers know where he's headed.
It gives him a bit of a, kind of powerful position, too, to be able to go around and kind of spread that message ahead of time.
It does. And so it's obviously, it has policy impacts, but it has political ones too. The governor hasn't decided who he'll back to succeed him in the governor's mansion. This is going to be his very last legislative session. So his wish list is probably going to be pretty robust, as we've seen already. And so by going around the state, he can get folks talking about Jay Collins as well as Casey DeSantis, should she decide to run for governor. But it also puts other candidates who are running for governor on the spot, because now they're all going to be asked their position on this. And in fact, I've seen even House members at the congressional level being asked questions about things like vaccine mandate rollbacks. And so it is really helping to drive a lot of the conversation around the 2026 election, which is something that DeSantis has always been kind of good at, inserting himself into the news cycle or driving the news cycle. And so he's back to doing that. And we really saw that happen with the vaccine mandate push for the mandates to be undone that we saw last week.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. How are lawmakers receiving that and reacting to that?
Not great. So the biggest thing to understand here is that, these are vaccines that have been around a very, very long time. They prevent illness to things like polio, measles, things that are very preventable and that would otherwise, be highly, highly contagious. And so parents are calling their state representatives and senators to complain. They're worried. They don't want their kids going to school with other children who are unvaccinated. And so the legislature has a lot of pull here to be able to say that, how this will ultimately go. But one of the things that they also have in their corner is that medical groups are very much against this. And medical groups, as we've seen, at the state, federal level, et cetera, they tend to be very, very influential and powerful. They can write big checks to campaigns. They can get messages out. And they don't want to see their patients come in for treatment of diseases that are otherwise very preventable with vaccines.
So what do you expect the conversation to be about that in the legislative session?
Well, I think it'll be a pretty fraught conversation. I think it'll be very controversial. The governor insists that he's not anti-vaccine, just that he's anti-mandate. He says that, if you get the information out there, the parents are more likely to, he thinks, are more likely to take part because they feel like they have to make their, they have a say in the decision. But really, mandates have been put into place in a lot of states, in every state, because it's the best way to get people vaccinated. If you have to do something, you're more likely to do it. If it's a requirement to go to school, you're more likely to make time for it. Even some people who might want to get vaccinated, but if there's not a mandate, just might never find the time. That happens. People are busy. And so they are very concerned, and I think it'll be one of the lead issues this legislative session, as well as probably making that a part of a larger what Governor DeSantis is calling medical freedom package, which we haven't heard yet was going to be in there, but I expect that we will over the coming months.
It's going to be interesting to watch that debate in Tallahassee. I'll give you a live look right now in Fort Pierce, where jury selection, the second day of jury selection, getting underway in the Ryan Ruth trial. And Kimberly, this was something you wrote about in Florida Playbook as well, and also talked a little bit, because this judge is a name we have heard quite a bit lately as well.
Yeah, Judge Cannon was the judge who threw out the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case against Trump. So I've actually spent a lot of time in her courtroom because I covered a lot of those hearings, and I'll probably cover some of the hearings for Ryan Ruth. I was at his arraignment. He had written a letter that was very chilling, where he called for someone to, quote, try to finish the job of assassinating the president. And he had staked out the golf course for, hours and hours with a semi-automatic. And so he is on trial now. If he does get convicted of, trying to assassinate a major presidential candidate, then he will spend life in prison. He's had a very colorful set of filings. He's representing himself in the case, and he has tried to steer a lot of the conversation away from, the actual matter at hand and toward other issues that he feels passionate about, like Ukraine and Palestine. And so jury selection is going to happen both today and then tomorrow, and the actual opening statements don't start till Thursday. But his attorneys previously argued that he was more interested in publicity, and I think we're seeing pictures of that play out over the next 4 weeks that have been blocked out for this trial.
Also want to give a live look at the White House there, where we know last week Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez had the chance to go to the White House, had the chance to meet with Donald Trump. And in fact, the president was even asked about this meeting with Speaker Perez in the Oval Office the other day. Kimberly, what do we know about this meeting between Danny Perez and President Trump?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what they talked about specifically. I know that they patched in Byron Donalds, who Trump has endorsed for governor, and Trump denies that he personally talked to Perez about his political future. But, we've heard from multiple sources that at least White House officials would like to see him run for state attorney general. It was not something that he came into the meeting seeking out. So I think he was also surprised by the news and by the pressure to get into the race. If he were to do so, he'd be running against James Othmeyer, who is not only DeSantis's former chief of staff, but he's the person DeSantis picked for the job. So it could create a proxy war between Trump and DeSantis. And he also, Othmeyer had also managed Governor DeSantis's presidential campaign against President Trump. So it could get very, very heated, especially, if Perez is still House Speaker and doesn't step down to run. I don't know that he will run for this. I don't know what the interest level is, but it obviously offers a lot of intrigue. And, Florida may, after all, get challengers that are endorsed by Trump and endorsed by DeSantis, and we'll see where the chips fall.
Well, DeSantis certainly did not pull any punches when it came to strong words about Danny Perez during the last legislative session, so could create certainly some more tension between the governor and the leader of the House there.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. There's still a lot of tension there. In fact, Governor DeSantis gave a speech this past weekend that I listened to where he basically likened those who opposed him in the legislature to being liberals, to essentially being Republicans who didn't mean to follow through on the promises that they ran on. And, that's pretty much how he frames a lot of Republicans who disagree with him. I do think that the governor has certain advantages in the sense that he, has the bully pulpit. He goes around the state. He knows how to make his voice heard. I mean, we've seen it happen with property tax repeal where it wasn't really much of a conversation and now voters are really talking about it. And so DeSantis can keep using that to try to pressure voters who then in turn pressure the representatives to go in his direction. And so I think this session will probably be even more contentious than the last one.
Oh, wow. So what's next? I always like to ask you what the next thing we need to watch for in Florida politics is. What do you have your eye on?
Well, I think we're going to start seeing more candidates run for office. That's pretty much all that I can share at this point, but I think that they are very soon going to be unveiling more names, more well-known names for all different statewide candidates. So please sign up for Florida Playbook because you'll get more information on that. It's our free newsletter, and it'll just really start to make things very interesting at the primary and general election level.
Politico reporter Kimberly Leonard and the author of Florida Playbook. We appreciate you joining us, and always good talking with you here on Florida Live.
You too. Thanks so much.
We're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but as we do, give you this live look along I-Drive. You can see the rain coming down here in Orlando on this Tuesday afternoon. We'll be right back with more after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. From rainy Florida to sunny Washington, D.C. Something doesn't quite seem right about that. It seems a little backwards here, but it is sunny, or at least partly cloudy. Live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., where it has been a busy day on Capitol Hill today, and a busy day for several of Florida's congressional delegation, including Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna and Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who today were part of the House Oversight Committee task force on the declassification of federal secrets. That task force held a hearing looking at UFOs, or sometimes called UAPs, and they also looked at whistleblower protection. So protection specifically when it came to folks in the military who there were several witnesses in front of that task force today, all veterans of the Air Force, talking about their experiences with these UAPs or UFOs. I want to play for you a little bit of Congresswoman Luna's remarks at this hearing, and also you're going to hear from Congressman Moskowitz as he questioned a couple of the witnesses about their experiences. This is from just a little bit ago on Capitol Hill.
And I can only see the center light at this point. If I didn't actually see it take off, I would have thought it was a star. And then it hovers up there and it begins to slowly move due east out over the Atlantic Ocean. I finally got my phone reset. The entire thing was about, from the time I saw the light pop up near the hangar until it took off out over the ocean, was about 15 minutes.
And following up to that question, after you disclosed this information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General, you were subject to phishing attempts and job blacklisting. How widespread do you think this is across the intelligence community for those who raise concerns regarding UAP programs?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think prior to David Grush and people beginning this process of bringing people into awareness of the reality of these programs and certain things people have witnessed, probably extremely widespread. I think today there's still an issue, but because people are able to come before you and people are speaking out, I think it has been somewhat less. I would hope, though, that people would, because if this goes back into closed doors, this is going to get really ugly.
What type of behavior have you witnessed from former Aero Director Sean Kilpatrick as well as his staff in relate to this information you provided to them? Did they ever try to classify this information as non-human technology?
Good question. The problem with this is that I know what I experienced firsthand, and I know other things. I think the staff at Aero that I met with in March of 2023, I think they were good people doing the job they were told to do. I did not meet with Kirkpatrick. He was either not present or did not want to meet me that day. However, they did classify information about the reality of this subject, and it was very concerning because in my Aero MFR, they had actually referenced a former staff member that was the one who told me to go there, and they probably shouldn't have done that.
And real quick before my time is up, and we might go to second round of questioning just so you're all aware, how important, given everything that you've seen and experienced, is the UAP Disclosure Act of 2025 in restoring both public accountability and trust?
I think very important. I would hope, though, that the 7-year window could be shrunk, my opinion, but very important. The truth needs to be known.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Jared Moskowitz of Florida.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for allowing me to wave on to the committee. I remember, the last committee when we had a bunch of former military personnel folks that either served on bases, were pilots, or were in different programs experiencing knowledge. It made me recognize that the narrative has changed, right? It's politically convenient for the government if you all weren't military folks in suits. It would be much better if you pulled up in Winnebagos and were wearing hats. And so the picture of this, because that's important for the American people on how you tell a story, what the message looks like, and who the messenger is. So this is now the second or third committee where we have former military folks with impeccable records, with information and knowledge. And it's definitely clear on a bipartisan basis that we have to protect our whistleblowers. There's no doubt. And in a day in which it's really hard to tell what's true or not from a political standpoint. And so I don't really know what is true. I don't know on this subject. But I do know when we're being lied to. And we are definitely being lied to. There's just no doubt about that. Mr. Wiggins, I want to talk to you. I find your background and testimony compelling. When you first saw what you were looking at, what were your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were, I think everything that I was told and taught as a kid and as growing adult no longer, was applicable. If I'm able to see something that I thought defies gravity in such a way, then what else could be possible? That was my first thought.
So did you think what you were looking at was a weapons program that you were unaware of, or did you think what you were looking at was obviously some extraterrestrial piece of technology?
Neither one of those crossed my mind. It was just.
How about now? What do you think it is now?
I'm not the expert. I think it. I want to be as skeptical as everyone else and just hope to know the information.
Anyone in the U.S. government tell you what you were looking at to try to dissuade you from what you thought it was?
No.
So no one was like, oh, there was some anomaly with the technology. No one from the government did that?
No one.
How do you think you were treated when you reported this information or have talked about, the Tic Tac video is well out there. It's well reported. How were you treated?
I've had no pushback at all. I haven't had anyone reach out to me or try to, dissuade me in either direction, militarily speaking. So I was treated fair, and I appreciate the Navy itself with assisting me with coming here to being able to testify.
That's good. So what do you think the American people should take away from watching your video, right? Because when we watch it, obviously, right, we've never seen anything like that. It defies what we know to be technologically possible. What are we supposed to think? Someone's lying about something. Someone's hiding something, right? That's not normal what you looked at.
I think what the American people should think when seeing that video, along with others before me, is that there is something out there, and we should know as the people what it is.
Right, and so let's eliminate possibilities. So they didn't come to you and say there was a technological error with what you were looking at. So we put that aside, right? They didn't say it was broken. So we look at that and we see something. So it's either a weapons program being reverse engineered by our governments or other governments, or it's nobody's government, and it's not from here. Those are it. You agree with that assessment?
I agree. One or the other.
Mr. Borland, when you first experienced what you were looking at, what did you do next? Like, what was your next step after it had passed and you were done?
I actually kind of laughed to myself and said, okay, so this exists as well. Worked in enough programs, been exposed to enough that I was like, okay, so this is a real thing. I went back, walked the track, talked with a couple of my friends about it. I did talk with some of my coworkers, one in particular, which I thought was a joke, and it definitely wasn't, was like, you probably should never say this to anybody. And then what happened to me happened, so.
What about you, Mr. How do you pronounce your last name?
Nusatelli.
Nusatelli. And sorry, I know I'm running out of time, Madam Chairwoman. So obviously your incident happened well before we could record things on cell phones and things of that nature, right? What did you do when you first experienced? Because what you saw, right, you saw it happen like right out of your base.
Correct.
So tell me what you did after you saw that. What was like your next move? And I want to hear what your experience was.
My next move, I went into my house after it left. I made sure no one had been abducted, and I picked up the landline. I called the Security Forces Command Center. I reported it. I requested that they give me a call back and make notifications up the chain of command. I got a call back in about 15 minutes. They reported that the weather station reported no balloons or aircraft, nothing on radar, no aircraft inbound or outbound. So I got that notification. And then within the following day or two, me and the other witnesses wrote statements. We prepared a report, and then we filed all that information.
Madam Chairman, thank you for your indulgence in my questioning, and thank you for continuing to lead on this subject. What do you and your friends think about it today? You all have talked about it. I mean, so what do you think about your experience as a collective group? That'll be my last question, Madam Chairwoman.
I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years. We don't know what we saw. What we saw changed our lives in the way we think about everything. It was incredibly profound. The object I saw, I don't even know if it was an object. It was a light. It was an orb. It didn't look like a craft, but it did look solid. And that's what we talk about. We noticed the object, and this was a pattern across all the encounters. Someone would see a light. They would pay attention to the light. And then the object responds. It performs for you. And then they come down and they investigate you. So it's almost like they're curious. So that's the thing we primarily talk about. Why did it come after we noticed it? Maybe it noticed us after we noticed it.
And that was earlier today. Now I want to give you a live look in Washington, D.C. at the Make America Healthy Again Commission. They are discussing their strategy on making children healthier. This is going on right now in Washington, D.C. I also want to give you a live look inside a Senate Judiciary Committee subcommittee hearing. This is Amy Klobuchar, a Democratic senator from Minnesota. One of the members of the subcommittee is Senator Ashley Moody. This is a hearing about Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, several other social media platforms, and there are whistleblower allegations that they ignored and buried research about child safety on those social media platforms. So there is a hearing that is just getting underway, hearing some opening remarks from the senators, the leaders of this subcommittee, and asking some questions shortly of the witnesses who are a couple of whistleblowers who I believe worked as researchers for Meta. So we heard from Ashley Moody, Florida's newest senator, just a little bit ago, talking about the importance of this. So we're monitoring this hearing as well. Right now we are going to take a quick break here on Florida Live. As we do so, let me give you a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We'll be right back with more Florida Live on the other side of this break. Welcome back into Florida Live. That was a live look at Daytona Beach, and you can see those clouds. We've seen rain coming down across different parts of our area. In fact, I'm still seeing it to come down right now along I-Drive in the tourist district. Here in Lake Mary, we are dry at the moment, but certainly something we need to watch out for this week. I'm Garrett Weimer, and we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live on Fox Local, YouTube, Fox 35, and Fox 51 as well. We appreciate you joining us here today. We've covered a lot of ground. Still have a few more minutes with you here, and want to cover one more thing before we let you go. If you're a football fan, it was a good weekend for several Florida teams and a not so good weekend for several others. When we're talking about pro football, Miami Dolphins, talk about a rough start to the season in week one. They were blown out 33-8 by the Indianapolis Colts. Certainly have a lot of questions now, especially when it comes to quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He was held scoreless until the last 6 minutes of the game in the fourth quarter. The head coach, Mike McDaniel, called it miserable and an embarrassing performance. And I think many people who watched that game might agree with that. Here is what Mike McDaniel said to reporters about that performance and looking ahead to next week and some of the adjustments that need to be made.
With James, it's not season ending. It's not... he won't be available this week. It looks to be a couple weeks, and we're evaluating the timeline and if there's any roster management with that. But right now, as we know, it will be a couple weeks.
And Storm Duck?
Storm Duck will also be a couple weeks.
And how about Austin Jackson?
Still finding out some more information on him and in regards to his toe.
And then Benito Jones?
It looks like, Benito's in a week-to-week category. I wouldn't rule him totally out for this game, but I wouldn't rule him in either. We'll see how time progresses.
And is there anyone in concussion protocol after yesterday?
No, there's not.
Not getting to the run game was the biggest factor in that, the turnovers, time of possession, and also the big lead that the Colts took.
Well, no, I think the biggest issue was that 4 out of the first 5 drives were turnovers, and 24 points came off those turnovers. So, in situations like that, it is. And in those situations, if you're, not only failing in one phase, but in multiple phases, and then you're not getting off the field, you're not going to have any plays. We had like 48 plays, so it was tough to get any sort of balance of anything based on didn't earn more.
There was a stat highlighted by Daniel Lawson that it's now 1 full calendar year since Tyreek Hill's last 30-yard reception down the field. I guess my question is, how?
Well, there's he hasn't caught a 30-yard reception for a multitude of reasons. One, this last game, there was probably 3 different opportunities that the opportunity was taken away from him by his teammates' lack of execution on their non-ball assignments. So there's a litany of things, compounding variables when you're talking about something like that, and specifically with yesterday,
Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel facing some tough questions from reporters, likely to face many more as well if things don't turn around after week one, already in the hot seat, according to many reports, and even talks of Tua being traded. It's certainly a lot to watch for in Miami. Week 2, the Dolphins play the Patriots, who lost 20-13 to the Raiders in Week 1. Well, thanks for joining us here on Florida Live today on this Tuesday. As we wrap up, going to give you this live look along International Drive as the rain continues to fall. Been raining down there for probably half an hour or so as here in Central Florida. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow with another hour of news to take you around the state of Florida. Thanks for joining us live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. Have a great afternoon.